Hello, we are back with a good friend of mine, Mr. James Dunn. He's really helping a lot of people overcome their barriers, principally because he's been through the same um, like struggles and he's had the hero's journeys several times, so to speak. The like struggles and really overcoming these barriers to um, have a successful business. Not only that, to help more and more people each day. So thank you so much. We are the Social Tiger. We are involved in LinkedIn growth, a LinkedIn marketing agency. Once again, thank you for joining us. This is the way that we give back. We want to have experts in any type of field possible, sales experts, mindset experts, business experts. So if you are tuning in, which I know you are, please pay more than a custom attention to what James has to say. He's an excellent guest. Before we get into James and exploring what he does, we have the biggest event of the year coming up. February 20th, we are going to be interviewing none other than Tanner Chitester, over 120 million in sales in the last 6 years, averaging $30 million years. He's really impacted the world. He's known worldwide as mover, shaker, action taker, and also it's going to be mind blowing what he has to share with us. So stay tuned for that. February 20th at 6:30 p.m. EST time. So thanks again, once again, James, for joining us. So, can you tell the audience a little bit more about what you do and how you got started as um, a mindset coach or expert?
Yeah,
Thanks.
yeah. No, well, first off, I just want to say thanks for having me here. I really appreciate the opportunity. Appreciate, getting to come in here and share any knowledge or wisdom that I may have, with your audience. I know that you connect with some of the most high-powered people out there and just really awesome people. So it's an honor, for me, and I really appreciate the opportunity to be here. Myself, how I became a mindset coach, it's a long, crazy story of my life. I'll give you some of the quick overviews. I was adopted, grew up in a household with an alcoholic father, and I got arrested for attempted armed robbery when I was 17 years old. So, as you might imagine, I had some doubts about who I was, what was capable in my life, from a very, very, very young age. Felt like I was kind of pigeonholed based on the area that I grew up in. Nothing wrong with it, but a very small community, very blue collar community. One of those where we were always just taught, you go work hard every single day, you break your back every day, you do the really, really manual labor type jobs just to earn a paycheck and barely scrape by. You don't have any dreams, you don't have any vision to make anything bigger, anything grander than that, that kind of mentality. And, some of the best people I know, have come from that community. But again, we just weren't taught to dream of anything. And so I continued, down this path of just having this very limited viewpoint of what life was going to be like through my late 20s. And thankfully, I got introduced to personal development through a management position that I just ended up with in a job that I thought was going to be just a complete part-time job working in a movie theater because I wanted free movie tickets. Literally, it's what it all started with. Like, I get free movies? Heck yeah, I want to work here. But I got in there, loved the environment, got promoted into a management position inside of that company. They introduced me to personal development, which set me on a slightly different path. Not perfect. Fast forward 14 years, found myself getting my second divorce, raising my second child in a broken home, and I was like, "What's going on here, man?" I thought I had my life all figured out. What's missing here? And I realized that even though I was studying a lot of personal development and reading a lot of books and learning a lot of things, I wasn't changing. I realized that I had to make some changes. It's one thing to read the books. It's not, it's one thing to watch the videos or even take the courses, but until you make changes in your life, nothing's going to change. So going through that evolution of my own and learning, that you can be on the surface level thinking you're improving your life, but unless you're actually doing the work, nothing's going to change. And realizing that I'd gone down that path, I realized maybe I can help other people see what they're missing. And that's what really got me into coaching. And I went through a couple of different variations of what I was coaching to land on mindset, but I ultimately realized mindset what was the common denominator with everything else that I had been teaching before. So that's how I landed up as a mindset coach.
Wow, amazing. I mean, it's really brought you to this point of, I see, it's really brought you to the point of like really striving, really wanting to help people, right?
Yeah,
Going through the same scenarios, although every story is different, right? And
yeah,
they might not, or might have gone through the same kind of circumstances as you growing up, but in reality, it's all about knowing how to help people because we've been through the same kind of ordeal, right? I
yeah.
mean, and that's powerful. That's powerful
Yeah,
indeed.
because I mean that's the thing I always tell people. It's like most of you probably haven't, that are watching this or listening to this, however you're consuming it, you probably haven't been arrested for attempted armed robbery. I hope you haven't. Most people haven't. But you've
Yeah,
gotten a divorce, you've gotten fired from a job, you got picked on as a kid. Something has happened in your life
yeah,
that has created your own version of trauma. And we never want to compare trauma. My trauma is no worse than your trauma. Whatever the worst thing that's happened to you is the worst thing that's happened to you. So each one of us have gone through some version of those situations, and we all start questioning ourselves because of that. And once we latch onto that story, until we get something to break that pattern and show us that, hey, that's just an event that happened in our life. It means nothing about who we are, what we're capable of, what we're deserving of, or any of that stuff. Until that day happens, then you just live in that little story. And so that's what I love to help people is to, hey, let's look at this from a different perspective. Let's give you
yeah.
another option of what that could have meant for you or what
Exactly,
it was supposed to help teach you.
exactly. So, um, this really segue into a great discussion about what you do and how you help people and how you impact and how you help your clients. So, can you share a little bit about that? Thanks.
Yeah. So the two primary ways that I work with people these days is one-on-one coaching. So, in terms of mindset, I
Hmm.
lean more towards people who are in the entrepreneurial space because for me, I know they've got some vision, they've got some hope already, and kind of
Wonderful.
circle this back to what we were talking about earlier.
Hmm.
My original foray into coaching, well, number one, I wanted to help everybody. And then I realized very quickly you can't help everybody. You got to niche down. You got to pick a sub group, to work with. And I thought going through divorce twice and having a kid in each one of those marriages, I could help divorced dads. But I
Yeah.
realized that God love divorced dads. I've been one twice, but most of them need more of a therapy situation. And then they can get into life coaching to help them through that. So that's why I tend to lean more towards people who are in the entrepreneurial space.
Yeah.
So sorry about that.
No problem.
I lean more into the entrepreneurial space, people who are, going into business for themselves, or even if you're an entrepreneur,
Wonderful.
you're working inside of another corporate environment, but you take on that mentality of, I want to be the best that I can be and grow this business to the biggest it can be and the best that it can be.
Yeah.
Um, Work with them inside of that. And then I also have a mastermind that I'm putting together right now as we speak to work with those really early stage entrepreneurs, because I think that's where a gap really falls in society right now. Is there's so many masterminds, there's so many groups out there for people, and they'll say early stage, but I mean, I was in a mastermind once that said it was like basically entry level entrepreneurs, and it was anywhere from zero to $500,000 in business. I'm like, there's a huge gap between zero and $500,000. You're in completely different places, if you're at zero or even to 0 to 100 versus 100 to 500. And
Yep.
so where I've been leaning heavily right now is helping those people in that really, really early stage, 0 to $100,000, uh, bring them together and help find them a supportive community and give them those tools they need to get that foundation built. And then we'll step them up into that next level, and help scale things and grow things beyond that. But that's really where my passion's
Yeah.
in helping people.
Yeah, that's true. So you mentioned how like maybe step by step would be like the best way of conquering things, right?
Mm.
So is it typically maybe deal with the mindset first, and
So
then
there's
just like focus on a set schedule to conquer the day, or like how do you specifically?
Yeah. So
measure that?
yeah, no, great question. So for me, a lot of it goes back to an experience that I had that helped change me, transform my life in a great, massive way. Was what I call my marathon mindset. I've run 2 marathons, 3 half marathons, 2 Tough Mudders. But when I was running my very first marathon, I'd never been a runner before. And so I had to adopt this mindset of a marathon runner. And it all started with getting the vision. Like, what do I want? It literally started with me seeing a medal on somebody else's wall. And it was like, guys, we go and we see other guys and we get, um, we're in there talking smack to each other. And this guy's got this medal on his wall. And I was like, where'd you get that medal from? And he's like, oh, I ran a 5K. I'm like, well, how far is a 5K? Because I had no clue. I wasn't a runner. It's like, it's 3.1 miles. And I said, pardon my French, I said, you ran 3.1 miles for fun? Are you fucking stupid? I just thought it was like the dumbest thing ever. But
Exactly.
I go home and I start thinking about this medal he's got on his wall. I'm like, well, I want a medal. I want one of those too. If I got guys coming to my house or friends, look at my medal, man. I'm cool. That's what I want. Um, so
Yeah.
it starts with a vision. It starts with what do you want? What
Yeah.
really means something to you? Because without that vision, when you run into the hard days, when you run into the challenging days, you're going to give up. You've got nothing to pull you through without that vision. So for me, it always starts with, let's sit down, let's get you a crystal clear vision of what it is that you want. And then from there, then we start working on, okay, but what are the habits you need to do? What are some of the steps that you need to take, to get you to where you want to be? Start really working on those daily routines, because that's what's going to build that confidence. That's what's going to build that belief in yourself and that trust in yourself, slowly building up over the course of time. Because if I tried to go out that very first day and run 26.2 miles, I would have fallen over dead. I mean, it just would not have happened. And I literally, remember the very first time I went running, I made it maybe 2 blocks before I had to take a break. I'm like, whew, okay, this is a little too much. I need to take a breather. So I'd walk a little bit, and then I'd run like 2 blocks, and then I'd walk a little bit. But over the course of 4 months, I got to where I built up to running 26.2 miles. And like I said, I've done that a few times now. I've run a few half marathons. And nowadays, I think, a 3 or 4 mile run, I don't want to say it's a joke, but it's something I don't even need to run for a year. And I could go out and run 3 or 4 miles without even thinking about it anymore, because I've built up my mindset to know that I can do that. My body knows it can do that. And that's what we do inside of your business, is working on that mindset of giving that vision of what you want, taking those daily actions to build up your confidence, your belief in yourself, your trust in yourself, to know that no matter what comes up, you can get through this and you can get to that level that you want to get to. Anything's possible if you take the small enough steps to get you there over the course of time.
Yeah. Yeah. So, like you mentioned, to the like maybe um, finding your vision, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is so important, because a lot of people know. Well, a lot of people don't know what their vision is. A lot of people may know. It just depends on what part of the journey they're on right now.
Yeah.
But how do you specifically help with like finding a person's vision, so to speak? Any methodologies or any kind of
Yeah.
visualization techniques that you
Yeah.
use?
So when I work with people, we go through like an hour and a half session, 90-minute session, where I will go break down a lot of, working on your vision and why it's important and how to kind of break this down and structure it. I'm sure, everybody here on LinkedIn, is fully aware of SMART goals, being specific, measurable, attainable,
Hmm.
realistic in a timeline, really working through some of that, because a lot of times people will say, well, I want to make more money. Well,
Yeah.
if you just say, hey, I want to make more money. Well, all right. Well, you made an extra dollar today. Is that what you're talking about? I doubt it.
Yeah,
So I want to
exactly.
lose weight. Well, okay, you lost. You went to the bathroom. You did a number two. You lost half a pound. All right. Is that what you wanted? No. We've got to be very specific, and it's got to be measurable. We
Exactly.
go through at
Exactly.
least that basic framework, and we don't
Yeah.
just stay on that, but you've got to have that clarity, and we just kind of work through that. And I do talk about some of the visualization techniques that you can use. Um, but what you talked about is a lot of people don't know what they want, and that's so true, because really, if you ask people what they want, more often what they're going to tell you is what they don't want. And that can
Yeah,
help you
that's
get to
true.
what you do want. But so few people are actually working towards something, they're working more away from something. And the trouble with that is if you're trying to get away from something, you're only going to do as much as you have to until it's not super uncomfortable. And then you're going to stop. But if you're working towards something, if you're working towards something that you love, that you're absolutely like passionate about, you're going to do everything in your power to get to that. And so that's why we have to get really clear about what it is that you want, not just what you don't want, because it's two different mentalities and you're going to treat it completely differently without having that vision of what you really, really, really want.
Yeah, that yeah, that's true. You make an interesting point about people not um, like knowing what they want, but they don't know what they don't want, right?
Yeah.
So, so, can you give us like an example of like just like a brief example of like a framework that people can use, or to like make sure that their vision is on track to make sure those inner desires are flourishing every day with passion, because sometimes, you know, we get sidetracked. Sometimes the shiny object syndrome, sometimes, like with our vision, we say, okay, this is our vision over here, we're working daily to get it, but then it changes and we don't feel that happiness, or we don't feel that passion that we felt at first. So
Yeah.
was that truly our vision, or does it need to be revamped? So
Yeah, and I think that's a really important questions you asked there because your vision can change over the course of time. And I think this is why, when I work with people, we'll create the initial vision, and then about 6 months later, we'll revisit the vision to make sure that it's still on target. And then we'll do that again 6 months. Like every 6 months, I want people looking at their vision almost every day, but every 6 months, we're going to review it and make sure that it's still on target, or see if we need to adjust some things. Maybe they've already hit one of their things they thought they weren't going to hit for another year or two, something like that, or
yeah,
maybe it's going to take a little longer. We don't know, but really reviewing that vision. And what I do, and I can't remember all I did off the top of my head, but what I have people do is sit down and break their life out into 8 different segments.
mhm,
So what your life looks like, in terms of money, what you want it to look like in terms of relationships, what you want it to look like in terms of your health, and once you sit down and like break it down into each one of those 8 areas, then I have you sit down and write out an actual vision of what your life looks like on a day-to-day basis and how you're feeling and um, what life looks like to you. And so that way, every single day, am I matching this vision of what my life looks like? So it's not just like I want to have $100,000 in the bank necessarily. I
yeah,
mean, okay, that's cool, or $1 million in the bank, or 2 million in the bank, or 5 million in the bank, or whatever. It's not necessarily just that. Why
yeah,
do you want that money? Because that's always a big piece of this as well. Is why. As we're going through this process, figuring out what you want, it's like, why do you want it? And I'll share an example with you. And I got to think back on it. I remember I had a vision. Oh my gosh, what was it? I remember the vision was I wanted to climb Mount Kilimanjaro.
okay, cool,
I still do. I still do because it's a physical challenge, something I think would be awesome and incredible. But one of like it was a vision I had for a long time, and the reason at the time that I said it initially was because I talked about my dad being alcoholic. Well, he died was 53. I think he was still 53. Anyway, I was 27 years old at the time. My son was coming up on, a few years away from his 27th birthday when I set this goal. And I thought, how cool would that be to flip the script? My dad died because he was an alcoholic and didn't take care of himself when I was 27 years old. How cool would that be if my son's dad could see his dad, or my son could see his dad climbing Mount Kilimanjaro, when when my son was 27. So I can kind of flip the script
mhm,
completely on how my
yeah,
son's going to view his dad versus how I saw my dad.
mhm,
And so initially I was just doing it for my own selfish reasons, not because I wanted him to see that. But then later I changed it and included him into the process. It's like, well, hey, how about we do this together? And so that's something that
yeah,
he's kind of jumped on board with. It would be a really cool thing. So you got to be very careful on why you're doing things. And this is also something, that I see way too often is people will start setting goals like, I want to do this and I want to do this and I want to do this. And as we start peeling away those layers and saying, well, why do you want to do this?
Yep.
It's because maybe this is what their parents wanted them to do, or this is what
Exactly.
the society tells them they're supposed to do. This is what the expectation is because, well, you've started down this career path and you've been in it for 10 years. And so this is the next logical step. But what if that's not what they want to do? What if they truly don't love that field,
Yep.
that they're in, and they have this other vision that they really want to be in? Let's be brave. I mean, you only get one life. So
Yep. Exactly.
what if you had that magic wand and you create whatever life you want? Let's put that on a piece of paper and then start working towards it. It doesn't have to be overnight. It doesn't mean you got to quit your job today or make this massive shift in this moment. But let's at least start planting those seeds and watering those seeds every single day
Yep.
of how do I get from where I'm at now, which is okay. It's not bad. It's not the worst, but it's not where I truly want to be. How do we get over there? So yeah, just breaking that down and
Yeah.
allowing yourself to dream, man. That's really what it comes down to.
Amazing. So yeah, I mean, like a lot of, well, I'm not gonna say parents, but um, a lot of, well, parents too. uh,
Yeah.
a lot of people get stuck in the okay, dreamers. Dreams are for like chumps, and they don't. I mean, sure, you can have a dream, but you need a nice stable job, 9 to 5, and you
Yeah.
need this kind of like stability, and then da 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 da. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, obviously, right?
No.
But thing is, how can a person take that leap that is so important? Because it does take a leap of faith. It's just like, how does a person like take that leap of trust in themselves? Just like, okay, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna
Yeah.
follow. I'm gonna follow that dream. You
I
know?
think, I mean, it definitely takes a mindset shift.
Yeah.
We have to look at it from a couple different levels. So
Sure.
the first one would be how secure is any job? You look at the nice, safe 9 to 5 job. That's what we're all taught. Everything's nice.
Yeah.
Go get this 9 to 5 because that's a safe income. It's steady income, and this is what you should do. But we've seen it, especially over the pandemic era, how people were just let go from their jobs for different beliefs
Mm,
or things like that. I mean, they were just cut from their jobs instantly or just cutbacks, things like that. So people who had been working 5, 10, 15, 20 years at jobs got let go over something either they believed or just because companies had to cut back for whatever reason. So we have to let go of that mentality that a 9 to 5 is always going to be the safest way to earn a living. It can be, I mean, but it's no guarantee because you're at somebody else's mercy. You're at their, I mean, I've had friends that, worked in jobs literally for 10, 12 years, 15 years. And then for whatever reason, the corporate, had an issue with them. Somebody brought up some issue. And in, the course of 2 to 3 days, boom, gone. You're out, bro. They got, no recourse, no nothing. And so here they are now. They're having to start all over again. So number one, letting go of that whole idea that that is the only safe way to earn an income. You can be an entrepreneur. You can be, there are many, many ways to do that. So letting go of that first and foremost. And the second thing, especially for parents, I would say a lot of parents are going to look at this from the perspective of it's unsafe for me or it's not right for me to go chasing my dreams because I got a kid to take care of. But here's my thing. If I'm telling my kid every single day, I want you to follow your dreams. You can do anything you want in life. You can be anybody that you want to be. I'm not showing that to them on a daily basis. I'm going over here to this job that is not fulfilling my passion. I'm going over to this thing that doesn't light me up, doesn't excite me, that is absolutely not the path that I chose in life. And I'm telling them they can be anything they want to be. How this doesn't match up. So
exactly.
if I want my child to grow up believing in themselves that they can be anything that they want to be, I've got to go live that. I'm going to go show them that. And I guarantee you, they're going to be more excited about me doing that than they are about getting that brand new Xbox 360 or
Yeah.
PlayStation 12, whatever we're on anymore, or that brand
Yeah.
new iPhone 28. You know, yeah, those things are nice, but they know the path that we're on is. And if you build that almost like community feeling in the family, like, hey, this is what we're striving for, and this is what we're
Yep.
going for, they're going to be all on board with that. They're going to help out around the house. They're going to be more respectful of what you're doing with your time and what you're trying to build because they know what it's leading to or where it can lead to. And they can see that and then adopt that for themselves and know that when they get that opportunity, they can then turn around and grow and build whatever business they want.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, yeah, the stigma of entrepreneurship is like instant gratification too. You know,
Hmm.
it's like people are not patient. You know, I see it every day. You know, I've been on LinkedIn for about 5 years, and I've been social selling on LinkedIn for about 5 6 years now. Was it hard to grow my audience? Sure. Well, is it still hard? Sure. I'm going through the daily grind, but getting results. It wasn't until like 2.5 years into my LinkedIn journey of posting constantly, of engaging in the DMs, of commenting, that I got that I got any traction. So like
Yeah.
the snowball effect. So i- if you really want something, go for it. Obviously,
Yeah.
and if you don't have time, look for those who can support you. You know,
Yeah.
that's like a fast track kind of mentality to like really fast track your journey, right? Like in my case was Jeremy Miner and Brian Tracy, and right
Mhm.
now Jay Lee the Sales Ninja as well.
Yeah.
These people have really incremented our business. Why? Because they have taught us sales strategies, they've taught us marketing strategies, they've taught us how to write content, they've taught us a whole lot of things to captivate interest around our business, to make life easier for us, right?
Yeah.
Because when you get a mixture of inbound leads, and also you get a mixture of um, outbound messages that are accepted, then you're going to have an easier time, because I mean, it just that starting is so important, and sometimes we don't have the time, right? Obviously, but it's just starting slowly, taking step by step, daily actions. What we suggest, if you're starting off on LinkedIn, or if you're reviving your dead accounts, so to speak, you actually dedicate maybe even 15 minutes to 20 minutes on
Yeah.
LinkedIn, commenting on other people's accounts. And I mean, it could be a quiet evening. LinkedIn's on your phone. You just go da 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 da. If that's what you truly desire, if
Yeah.
that's the vision for your company, and this is applicable in any circumstance, right?
Yeah.
So it's just like the journey of entrepreneurship. So any like, have you? Of course, you face struggles, mindset struggles. Um, like, I just want to deal with you becoming a successful entrepreneur or solopreneur. I mean, any kind of tips about solopreneurship or entrepreneurship that you have, um, especially when you build something like magnificent, especially when you build something special, like you're built helping people with their mindset.
Yeah, I mean, I think you really touched on a really important key component in all of this, especially in the entrepreneurial side of things, is don't be looking for instant gratification. There's going to be so much time. I mean, there are people that go out and you hear these stories and they annoy the crap out of me when people like, I posted 3 posts and instantly made $100,000. Like, okay, but what you're not telling people is you had 10 years of connections built up prior to that, and you just started this brand new
Oh
business.
yeah,
It's not,
that's
if you
awesome.
had this whole thing set up over here, you didn't just start a brand new Instagram account. Literally nobody ever knew you, and you posted 3 times and made all this money. So when you hear anything like that, understand these people had something built in. It's not to take
Yeah,
away from what they've done, but they're not giving you the entire story when they say they started it that way. So understand it's going to take some time. It's going to take a while to build it up. And you've got to, you hear this over and over and over, but you've got to fall in love with the journey. Don't fall in love with the destination. If you stop and think about a lot of the, when you're traveling, yeah, sometimes it's a pain in the butt, take that car drive across the country or get in the, airplane and do all this stuff. But when you think about it, I mean, those are some fun times because you're bonding with people, you're connecting with people. And when you look back after you've gotten to where you want to go, you think, man, I went through that struggle, I went through that challenge, and it made me a better person. It made me a stronger person because look what I went through. And now that I'm here, you feel even more secure about what you built because you didn't get it overnight. If you did post 3 times and got all this success and all this money coming in and whatever, you're going to have this deep seated fear that it can go away just that quickly because you didn't really do anything. I don't want to say that you did anything to deserve it. You're going to
Yep.
feel like you didn't deserve it because it happened so quickly. Whereas if you take that time and you build it up over the course of a few months, a few years, whatever it happens to be, like, dude, I've learned so many lessons along the way. This is solid. And even if it shifts, I've learned so much along the way that I can shift with it. I can pivot with it and I can adapt to whatever I need to do to keep this, growth going. So just have patience. Even if I take this back to my marathon training,
Yep.
as I said, when I started out, I was running 3 miles a day. On the days that I would run 3 miles, and the next day I would run 4 miles, and I would run 3 miles. I would run a 5 mile. Then you run 3, 5, 3, 6, and you had to build it up slowly. So I wasn't running 7, 8, 9, 10 miles until at least weeks into this, if not like the second month. And then by that third, fourth month, that's when I was running 17, 18, 19 miles at a time. And in the beginning, even those 3 and 4 mile runs were rough, but then I got to the point where if it was a 15-mile run, I wouldn't even think twice about it. I'm like, oh, 15, that's nothing. I've done that many times already because you just build yourself up over and over and over and over. So learn to enjoy the process. That that will get you so much further than just waiting for this destination. And then if you stop and listen to any success story, I should say almost everyone, but so many of them, what you're going to hear from them, if you listen to their story enough and they share enough of their story, they're going to tell you they had this vision in mind. They had this goal. They wanted to hit that $1 million mark, that $2 million mark, whatever the number was for them. When they hit it, yeah, it felt cool for about 5 minutes. And then they're like, wait, that's it? But now I'm only going to now I'm going to 2
Yeah,
million.
that's true. Yeah,
That piece doesn't
that's
last.
true.
You
Yeah,
got to fall in love with the journey. You got to fall in love with the process of getting there
exactly.
because the goalposts are always going to be shifting.
Exactly. Mark Ramsey, my co-founder. Amazing stuff, gents. Thanks a lot for your support, my friend. Let's see, for the 10, 15 people watching right now, please um, connect with James on LinkedIn, and I'm going to tag him. I'm going to include, you have a landing page. It was on your Facebook. Do you want me to share that one, or do you have another one?
If you wanted to shoot them over my Instagram page, that's where I spend more time. I mean,
Okay.
it's still
Okay.
at the real James Dunn. If it's on Facebook, Instagram, that's where that's where you can find me more
Uh,
often. I do pop in from LinkedIn from
is
time to time.
the real jamesdunn.kit.com? Is that
So what that one is, I mean, that's a cool tool to share. But what that one
oh,
is
oh, awesome.
that's a daily, what I call my daily roadmap. So it helps you stay focused on your daily
Ooh,
task and really focus in
nice.
what's really important. So I love that you shared that with the listeners there or the
Oh,
viewers there. But
Philip.
yeah, real James Dunn,
Oh,
that's me.
okay. So Philip Phenom Robinson has a podcast, and he's always looking for people like you. So you guys should hook up, make some magic together. Philip, he's he's a great friend. James, I
Yeah,
only met him a couple of times, but it seems that we jive. So yeah. So you two hook up. We'll work on some magic.
yeah,
I think both of you guys would really hit it off. Philip is an amazing guy. I think guys will really hit it off as well. So in terms of like reaching those goals, long term and short term goals, right? How can you like any advice for like let down, like oh I didn't reach my goal, oh I didn't do this, oh I didn't do that, like negative self talk.
yeah,
Any advice around that? Because I feel like that is a very important discussion that does not get talked about that much because
yeah,
of this phenomena of when we do have negative self talk. First of all, we don't catch it. Second of all, we feel embarrassed, to
yeah.
share it, right? So, any advice around that?
Yeah, I mean, the first one I would say is give yourself grace. You know, don't judge yourself for it. Again, and so this is a big piece of where the mindset comes from me. And I study the best of the best in like every field and listening to them and how they react to things like this. And failure is part of the process. I think failure was given, especially if you go back to our childhood days. You know, I've got a daughter right now who's in high school. She's a sophomore, and you know they have the A B C D E F grading scale, like you know all of us had when we were kids. And so we hear F, that's failing, and so we think that's a bad thing. But once you get into real life, failing is a part of the process. It's a normal part of what you're doing. If you're striving for anything big of any substance whatsoever, you're going to fail. I mean, I was just watching last night. There's a docu series on Netflix called Sprint, and it's talking about like the best sprinters in the world. And Noah Lyles, he's one of the big names in the sprinting world right now. I don't know anything else other than what I just saw in this docu series, but he went out there and he was proclaiming himself to be the fastest man on the planet. He said, "I'm going to go win 2 golds at the Olympics, which was last year. I'm going to do the gold in 100 and the 200. I'm taking it. They're mine." Well, he went, and spoiler alert if you don't know, he won the one in the 100, but he came in third in the 200. But he's like, well, I loved how he reframed it because he actually got COVID a couple days like right before he was supposed to run it. He still ended up with the bronze, and so then when he got the bronze, like, damn, I won the bronze with COVID. I'm pretty awesome, So it's like he failed at his goal, like his initial goal, but he's like, I'm still pretty awesome because I still got bronze even when I was sick. So I'm pretty awesome, dude.
Yeah.
And just know that you're not always going to hit everything the first time. Matter of fact, it's just not going to happen. It's impossible. Again, if you're striving for anything of real substance, it's not going to happen that way. So allow yourself to fail and just learn from it, grow from it. Because as long as you learn from it and grow from it, you're going to get closer and closer and closer. And there's going to come a point when you're going to eclipse what it was you're originally aiming for. And then not only that, you're going to keep growing and growing and growing and get so far beyond what you were originally aiming for that when you look back, like I just talked about, when I was starting out running, 3 miles seemed like forever. It's like, oh my God, this is the worst thing ever. And then there I got to a point where 15, 16, 18, 20 miles was no big deal. And I look back now and I think 3 miles is a joke. I was like, oh, that's nothing. I've run that in -9 degree before temps before. Like, who cares?
Philip, what I'm going to do is James is more active on Facebook, so I'll put you guys into three-way chat
Yeah,
so you
that'd
can.
be awesome.
Okay, awesome. Uh, yeah, he says Noah has made great push. He's also very active on YouTube. Yeah,
Yeah, because
yeah,
Noah, in just a little tiny piece of his story, he grew up having asthma. And so here he is now, literally one of the fastest men on the planet, depending on, because I mean, those races are literally down to hundredths of a second difference between who wins and who loses. But literally one of the fastest men on the planet grew up fighting asthma. And so he, you know,
amazing. Yeah,
it's, you can overcome just about anything in this life if you have the will and the mindset and the belief in yourself.
yeah. It, it's so true. It's so true. So we always have to make sure that we have this vision, of course,
Yeah.
but in just in case we don't meet our goals, allow ourselves grace.
Yeah.
Um,
And don't,
yeah,
and it's really a hot topic right now. Mel Robbins, she just came out with her Let Them book, which basically talks about let people judge. I haven't read the book, but I've heard enough other people talk about it. It's talking about stop worrying so much about what other people think, because that's one of the biggest fears that we have when we put ourselves out there. We're going to fail, and we're going to fail publicly. People are going to see it. They're going to judge us. Who cares? Who really cares? At the end of the
yeah,
day, at the end of your life, if you're laying on your deathbed in your hospital, are you really going to think back? If you have that opportunity, if you're lucky enough to think back about your life, are you going to think like, oh my gosh, I failed at that one thing, and that person on Facebook or that person on LinkedIn, they said, oh, this guy's a loser. No, I don't care, man. I
yeah,
care that I tried. I care that I at least
exactly.
went for it. And even if I don't achieve again my original goal, I can die on that deathbed happy knowing
Yeah,
I at least went for it and give two craps what some Joe Schmo on LinkedIn or Facebook or Instagram thought about me and my potential failure.
yeah. So um, I think, let's talk about resilience, because I think it's a topic that everyone tells you to be resilient, but they don't
Mm.
really share how to, or they don't really, and yet resilience and mindset is everything, and
Yeah.
um, uh, I know it sounds a little bit cliche to be resilient, but what does resilient mean to you, James?
Yeah, it just means not giving up. And this is what a lot of times really where that vision has to come in, because if you don't have that vision, that's when it's like, yeah. So, like with my running, I always go back to running because it's something that's really easy. But I built an identity around that. And even my business, I built this identity on who I am and how I show up and what I do. And once you built that identity, then I am just the person. I referenced it a little while ago. I went running. Was it last year? I think it was in -9-degree weather, because I was like, I'm a runner. This is what I do, and I'm going to go out there today. I'm going to do this. And so that's just by slowly just building yourself up over the course of time, doing little bitty things over and over and over and over. And you build this identity in your mind of, I am this kind of a person. I am capable of doing these things. Even when it gets hard, I've got that vision of what I am striving for and what I'm going for and how this plays into my running. I recently stopped running in the cold weather because I wasn't training for a marathon anymore. I wasn't training for a half marathon or a tough mud or anything like that. So I allowed myself to step out of that identity and say, okay, my vision is different now. Now I'm looking for more overall body toning, fitness. And so I'm doing kettlebell workouts and shifting what I'm doing. But that's where that vision comes into play, because sometimes you do want to give up. You do want to change course because it doesn't align with, how we talked about this earlier. Your vision is going to shift sometimes. And so that's why it's good to go back every 6 months, every year, and have a full blown, let me reevaluate this whole thing. But I wouldn't go any sooner than that. I mean, you want to look at your vision every day, but not necessarily try and change it, because if you try and change it every 3 months, then you're just dipping out as soon as it gets hard. You're not really pushing yourself to see if you can accomplish this goal. So, but every 6 months, every year or so, reevaluate it to make sure that you're still on path for something that is truly meaningful for you. And if not, then it's okay to change it. But make sure it's not just because things are getting hard.
Yeah, exactly. So, can you give us some daily exercises or daily um I know that real James Dunn that keep.com, it's a daily work map, right?
Yeah, so it's a
Or
worksheet,
no?
and actually, what it is,
What does that
so you're
have to
talking
do?
about like daily activities. So
Yeah.
it's got a few different things on there. Like I like to start my day with gratitude. So on there, you're going to write down 3 things that you're grateful for, because when
Nice.
we can be grateful for just even the smallest things, you know, it changes your whole perception of the world. You like, even if you get stuck in traffic, well, I can be grateful for that, because then that gives me a little bit more time to listen to this audiobook I'm listening to, or even if it's music, it gives me a little more time to relax and enjoy that, instead of like, oh my God, I'm going to be late, or oh, I was wanting to get over here for this. Just breathe, enjoy that.
Yeah.
Um, that worksheet, it also talks about like my 5 daily activities, one of which is gratitude. I also like to make sure to learn something new every day. So that either that be reading,
Nice.
podcasting, watching YouTube videos, but something every single day to expand my mind. Journaling is a big one. So sitting down, getting my thoughts out onto a piece of paper, getting them out of my mind, allowing myself to clear my thoughts. Meditation. So that's, sometimes that can be visualization. Sometimes that's just literally calming the mind and recognizing, we talked about this at the beginning of the call too, about sometimes people feel like we just don't have time to do things. You've got the time. You're just prioritizing other things over that. And in seasons of your life, that's okay to prioritize certain things, but know that it's a choice. It's always a choice to
That's
make the
true.
time for whatever it is that you want to do. And
That is very true. Hmm.
what did I have? Meditation, journaling. Oh, exercise. Yeah, exercise is something I do personally 5 days a
Exercise.
week,
Yeah.
because just that fitness journey, there's so much that
Mm,
it builds into
yeah.
that mindset. Again,
Yeah.
showing up on those days that you
Yeah.
don't want to show up, it's like, oh, I don't
Exactly.
want to do this workout today. But when you show up, man, it builds
Yeah.
that mindset. It
That
builds that belief. It builds that identity that I can do
resilience.
hard
Yeah.
things.
Hmm.
So
Awesome. Awesome.
those would be my 5 things that I would suggest.
Amazing. Amazing.
Yeah.
And And again, if you want to download it, it's right there. You just put in an email and it fires away to your email. You'll get it right away. So
Yep.
amazing, amazing. So um, So where can people find you? You say that you're not active on LinkedIn too much,
Yeah.
and you're on Instagram and Facebook,
Yep. Those are my
and
two.
okay,
LinkedIn, Facebook are where I primarily hang out at. Like as you mentioned, I do have the LinkedIn profile.
okay,
I don't do a whole lot with it, although I'll pop over there and drop some things from time to time, and I'll
yeah,
make sure to put some things over there here. Maybe start getting a little more active with it because I know there's an audience on
exactly,
here with it, as you've shown.
exactly,
But yeah,
exactly,
at the real James Dunn, because there's fake James Dunns out there,
yeah,
so I'm the real
exactly.
James Dunn.
At the real James Dunn, yeah,
Yeah,
awesome, awesome, awesome. Just to end, I like to ask this question to everybody who comes on. So I know that you're successful in what you do. You're learning stuff every day. So what are your goals for 2025 in terms of your mind, body, energy, spirit, and business?
yeah. So for me, it's really to grow the mastermind. I've done more of the one-on-one coaching
Mm,
primarily, but that mastermind has been something that I've played with for a while in different variation, like different forms of it. But this is really something that speaks to me that I really want to help people with. Again, seeing that gap in that really early stage entrepreneurial level. Um, because I know once people have their foot in the door and once they can get that solid foundation, then the sky's the limit and it just opens up everything else for them. So that's really the big thing for me is just to grow that mastermind. So if anybody out there knows anybody who is in that early stage of entrepreneurialism or even just thinking about becoming an entrepreneur, love to have a conversation with you and share with you what we got going on because again, it just opens up so much for people in their life and the lifestyle that they're able to live by having that opportunity.
yeah. Well, awesome. It was, I know that I benefited. Let's see here. So, my co founder, Mark, says, great conversation. We got Philip. And please, all the 15 people watching right now, please connect with James. Download that worksheet or workbook of the 5 things, and you'll be well on your way to completing your vision and having a bulletproof mindset, which
Absolutely.
everyone wants to have. Awesome. So, any ending thoughts, James? Any last minute advice to entrepreneurs?
Yeah, just want to say again, Jordan, to you, thank you so much for the opportunity. I really appreciate it, and thank you to the audience that's tuned in today and that's going to watch this. As it's out there for years to come. I really appreciate you, and just go after your dreams. As we talked about, you only get one life. Stop worrying about what other people are going to think. Stop worrying about the possibility of failing. When there's this old thing, the rocking chair test, and I talked about being in your deathbed. But when you're old and gray, if you have that luxury, to live a nice, long, long life, you're not going to regret the things that you did. You're going to regret the things that you didn't do. So if
Yeah.
you take the chance and it doesn't work out the way that you wanted it to, it's okay. You're still going to appreciate that so much more at the end of your life than you ever would, the things that you didn't do. So that's my parting advice for
Awesome.
everyone today.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you, James, for your time. We are going to have many different experts like James. If you really enjoyed this, every every Tuesday and Thursday of every week of February and March. Actually, we're booked up until the middle of March, and it's going to be absolutely great. We're going to have an interview with a awesome copywriter that actually works with Ryan Pineda, a major worldwide coach. So she's going to be on here giving us tips and stuff. So it's going to be absolutely amazing. We're going to have some business coaches. We're going to have some LinkedIn experts. So stay tuned. This is the Social Tiger Talks, all about lead gen and mindset. To really, it's our way again to give back to our LinkedIn audience of 16K and more. You've really been instrumental in supporting us, in in giving back to us, in referral business, in you name it. And so, thank you, James. And for anybody watching out there, connect with James. He has a good heart, and he will guide you on your way. Thank you so much, guys. Have a good one, and